Ahem. Good morning. How's it going? I am trying to pull this together here. So let's see if this is live. Happy Friday. Oh, we have audio. Look at that. Pretty fast. Okay. Well, good morning, Mo. Buenos dias. Buenas noches, senor. Um, Come on in. Say hello. Let me just get this production studio up and running. Hello, Novoa Dev as well. Well, last night, 10, I don't know what time it was, 10 something, and I realized I had not prepared all of this because it does take quite a bit of time to prepare. So I was not going to do it, but then I felt bad, so I did it this morning. So let's see how this goes. Come on in, grab a cup of your favorite roasted bean juice. That was a line that I heard recently on a little skit. And ask some questions. Oh, I apparently got rid of the photo here. Well, imagine a photo here of something interesting. So, ask some questions. What are you working on? What fun antics are you encountering in the Business Central world? I do not intentionally try to find these things in Business Central. They seem to find me. So think of this as your negative space, your blank canvas with which you can paint some BC fun. And once again, my video production intern fails me. Okay, there we go, another blank slate. So over the weekend, every homeowner's favorite task: sprinklers, yard work, maintenance. This sprinkler has probably been broken for, I don't even know, might be over a year. I think the gardener replaced it because those aren't my sprinklers. So they kindly fixed a prior broken sprinkler. So I finally went in, and that one broke. So I finally went in and replaced it with the kind that I use. And if you have replaced a sprinkler, you know it's not hard. It's just not fun. It's never going to be on your top 10 weekend activities list. But there you go. So had to dig it up, did the surgical approach, which has its pros and cons. Um, Pulled it out and had to put a new riser in there. And it's working now. I need to buy a different spray pattern, but good enough, better than it was. So that was my fun weekend. And while I was at Home Depot picking up some stuff, I picked up some topsoil and some drip sprayers. And I finally, after what must be a couple years, prepped this area for some plants. And this was an area where we had a tree, is a willow tree. That willow tree had been around forever, but I made the mistake of actually watering the tree when I moved in over 10 years ago. And that encouraged the tree to grow. Funny how that happens. Well, that tree destroyed sprinkler pipes that were 20 feet away, and it was heading towards the water main in front of the house. And it destroyed all the brick around this tree area. So we tore it out. In addition to being a ladder of rats to get onto our roof. Like I said, welcome to home ownership. So finally, after many years after having the tree and stump removed, I finally turned it into a potential flower bed garden, whatever. With this took many months to get the drip system in, had to reroute a sprinkler pipe, good times. And then on, I think it must have been Sunday, my wife and I went to an art fair, art show in Malibu. Malibu? No, Newport Beach, California. If you're familiar with the Sawdust Festival down there, that's what I thought it was. It is not the Sawdust Festival. It's just, a couple hundred feet down, and it is some type of fine art festival. And it was impressive. And the reason we went there is that my wife met an artist who had an exhibit there, and he does hand carved artworks made out of wood. And so every single piece of this piece of art was hand carved by him in order to essentially create a picture. And so he has a scroll saw, and I'm sure he carved some things, and it's like a bunch of puzzle pieces in order to create this art. It was pretty phenomenal. And um, his art was actually, interestingly, perhaps some of the most expensive that we saw there. And he's like, hey, this takes a really long time, takes a lot of materials. So, yeah, I think all of them were over $10,000. So, pretty impressive. So, we got to meet him, and that was pretty cool. Chatted with him, talked about his art, and then went around to the other booths and saw some amazing stuff. One person, I think it was a woman, she wasn't at her booth, she braids glass. And I have yet to figure out how that occurs. I need to go look up the video, but it is literally like, imagine this rectangle with these strips of glass that are actually not braided, they're woven. So they're woven in a square pattern, interwoven with each other vertically and horizontally, glass. I am absolutely baffled how that is physically possible, but I would like to find out. So that was fun. Weekly projects. The Continia document capture learning continues. We learned a little bit about Macorma Payment Hub for Business Central. The team continues to work on RDLC report layouts, some new ones, and we have some soccer updates and coconut trees. You know, your average weekly update. And I notice a mistake in my next slide. So, Monday, easing into the week with this interesting conundrum of an RDLC report layout. Did you know that I don't know if this is, I think this is stub check stub. In the stub check stub check layout format, there is apparently a blank line that appears on the remittance, but only on the top remittance. Very interesting. So Jocelyn discovered this because the customer wanted dollar signs on the amounts of their remittance lines. So she adds the dollar symbol, and this appears. It's a blank line. She's like, why is there a blank line? How do I get rid of the dollar signs? And that was interesting. So we learned about that. We don't know why the blank line is occurring. Presumably RDLC thinks there's an extra record, or BC is sending in something that makes it an extra record. Well, how do you get rid of that? One approach I'm thinking is, well, we could try to figure out how to suppress a blank line. Or I was bumbling around and I came across this. In Report Designer, or whatever it's called, I had seen this before, but we didn't have any need to touch it. In the report properties, there is code. And if you're familiar with the blank zero function, you will have seen that in the expressions of RDLC reports. I was like, huh, well, if they're blank in zero, which is how we get these blank fields with just a dollar sign in front, why don't we blank the dollar sign too? So I created a little function called blank dollar sign. And if it's just a dollar sign, then make it a blank string. And that worked. So that was the first time we have actually used a custom function in the RDLC report layout code. So that was super handy. Random, but handy. And then on Monday afternoon, unrelated to BC, we had a car service adventure. And my daughter is driving a used Volkswagen that is 2007. It's in excellent condition, but it's a 2007 Volkswagen convertible. And they did not make many of these, apparently, especially in the US. So we have a little bit of an obscure used vehicle. And as a result, Volkswagen no longer makes parts for this car, any parts whatsoever. So we were able to get it serviced, oil, and I think it was brake fluid and transmission fluid, just to make sure we knew where those were at. But they noticed that the CV boots on the axles were torn and leaking. And so they recommended replacing the front axles. Well, and they said that's going to be $2,400. We're like, whoa. Well, it turns out when we go there to look at the paperwork, they didn't even offer to sell that to us because parts obsolete, no repair available. So the dealer cannot order axles, they cannot order the CV boots, and therefore they cannot offer us the service. Potentially third-party parts are available, but the dealer cannot use third-party parts because they then cannot provide a warranty for that service. So they said, sorry, you need the repair done. We cannot do it for you. You're going to have to find someone else to do it. So I think that's the first time in my life a car dealer repair department has not wanted to charge me thousands of dollars, declined to do so. In fact, refused to do so. So that was both good news and bad news. So anyway, we now need to find a Volkswagen dealer who's willing to work on a 17-year-old car and order the parts, and hopefully we can get those parts for that repair. And they will probably be very expensive, just like other parts I've tried to buy for this car. And one interesting thing that I noticed at a car dealer, this is the first time I've seen this Volkswagen dealer accepted credit cards gladly, but they charged a 3% processing fee, which, you've seen this I'm sure you've seen this at other vendors. This is the first time I've seen this at a car dealer. That was interesting. So this service department will not charge a fee for a paper check, ironic, yes, or a debit card, but my debit card didn't allow purchases over $1,000. So I tried 2 debit cards and they were both blocked because I had set the limit to below $1,000 or less, interestingly. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll pay the fee. So does your business accept credit cards? And if so, do you charge a processing fee? Now, in my business, roughly, I'm going to say 95% of my customers now, I think we handle roughly 600 different customers, roughly. My customers, 95+% use a credit card to pay their bills. We do have a few that do EFT, and we do not charge a processing fee for any of those electronic payments. So should we? Don't know. I don't know. It makes it easy to get paid, to receive your payment. So we just consider the cost of doing business. Fortunately, we are a pretty high margin business. So yeah, we just eat the credit card processing fees. Then on Tuesday, Martes, what do we have going on here? I gave a little impromptu training or discussion of Business Central job queues to the Berlin team. And I am not a fan of job queues in Business Central. I think they theoretically are valuable. It's a great idea. I just think the implementation is not good. They are very unfriendly. I would never want to have a customer going into job queues. They're horribly unreliable, not necessarily the fault of job queue, but due to the implementation of the job queue in part. So yeah, I'm not a fan. So we talked about it, talked about what they could be used for, pros and cons, use cases. Now, we have implemented we have a design pattern for job queues that can be reliable, but yeah, I'm not a fan of them. So thank you, Henrik Helgeson, for a design pattern that does work. But so I shared this with the Berlin team, and they got to learn about job queues. We also, on Tuesday, Ronald and I delved into the wonderful page called Tax Posting Setup. And I have spent the last 5-6 years dealing with Business Central development and the technical side of things. So I just have not had the time to focus on posting group setup and all the operational side and functional side and financial side. So when we are navigating this tax posting setup window, in order to support a continuous configuration, we're just looking at this like, what in the world? And Ronald and I think we finally have this at least we won't claim to be experts. What we think we figured out how to just do what we need to do and slowly back away, and it works. It was a pain in the butt. It was quite confusing, but we think we understand it. Are we configuring it right? Probably not, but it's really not something we are responsible for. So, anyway, we got that mastered, and that allowed him to proceed with continued document capture. Because it turns out tax posting setup, and essentially you need to have, like, pretend to have tax posting setup enabled in order to configure document capture. So then Franklin and I had a call because we had a customer request a PTE, and this is one of those landmines. They said, hey, we want to have, oops, what's going on here? We want to have document attachments available on the bank deposit page. And I said, well, it's either going to be possible or not possible. We've kind of been down this road, and we know that anything in the fact box is squirrely at best, and just it's a yes or no answer. A lot of this stuff is like, I'll call it proprietary. You just can't mess with it. It's just so nasty, and really weird things go on in this, such as notes. Customer asked us to expand the note functionality. They're like, nope, you basically can't touch it. It's kind of this weird black box. But then Franklin was able to get this document attachments to appear in the bank deposit window. And we're like, oh, great. And he's like, yeah, cool. Not too bad. You just kind of expose it, make it visible. Until we did a round of testing and we're like, looks like we have a minor bug. No, it in fact was not a bug. It turns out to be a really, really nasty can of worms. And at this point, we're considering it, you just can't do it, not without a massive amount of effort that is just not really worthwhile for most customers. So if you know of a clean way to add the document attachment list subpart, list part, the new version, not the old version, let me know. I'm curious what you think is possible with that little fact box. And AI and LLMs, yeah, so Eric says Simple Object Designer can do it. You need to add all the events, and that was a can of worms. And so we're just like, whoa, once you see the code unit, we're like, yeah, we're out. There is no support for the bank deposit transaction type in that code unit. So we are not going to do that for a couple hours. It's just not PTE worthy. If the customer says we really want it and we're willing to spend 30 plus hours, okay. Or maybe we'll have them look at the Simple Object Designer. Not a plug. Unless it's a sponsorship. Hit me up. So AI and LLMs, my tool of choice for no particular reason is Perplexity, just because I found ChatGPT to be way too chatty. And so if you are not, I had this discussion with Tanya recently. She goes, what do you use these things for? And I just said everything. And I said, if you're not using this thing 20 times a day, whatever one you choose, GPT, Perplexity, Gemini, whatever, pick one, use it. Doesn't really matter which one. I use Perplexity for everything. So we had this weird Business Central error, which happened multiple times on this environment. Current permissions prevented the action, table data, blah, blah, blah. It seems that there's some weird issue where a user login works fine, and then all of a sudden you get this error. You can't do anything in BC, and it's like the permissions changed, and it comes and goes. So I don't know if it's a weird bug or something. And then, as of 2025, does Microsoft Teams provide NDI output? I'd looked into this a while back and claimed it was super flaky, so I tried it again. And then I'm shopping for used ThinkPad models or used Lenovo models, which models were released after the ThinkCentre M910Q. So just these trivial things that would take me minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, to just figure out the stupid stuff. It's just like, here's the answer. Boom, boom, boom. And it saves you 5 minutes, 10 times a day. It's phenomenal. And I ask it stupid questions. Um, and it just saves me time. So David was shopping for something. He's like, is this a good deal? I looked it up. Turns out there's 3 versions of this product and they look exactly the same. You just have to know the model number, and one is 3 years old, one is 6 months old, and that really affects the value. So yeah, if you're not using these AIs for just routine things, everything from a recipe to troubleshooting problems, do it. Like, just do it. Do it. Okay, Wednesday, miércoles. What did we have on tap? We attended the partner training from McCorma, and this was related to the Payment Hub for BC. Their next one appears to be in August 25th. And this was an overview of the functionality of Payment Hub and how it works in BC. They have overflow remittance. They have a custom check report. They have check approval processes, multiple signatures, things like that. If you're familiar with McCorma for GP, many of the features from GP are present now in BC. And they have things like they'll send the electronic payment for you instead of writing a check, all that stuff. So we are going to start offering that primarily for the remittance. Like BC remittance, check remittance is just stupid. It's horribly designed, doesn't work, doesn't handle overflow, complete waste of paper, etc. So we will be looking at the McCorma check report and remittance. And related to that, the document attachment list fact box. This is where you know you're in trouble. When you find the code unit for document attachment management and you see things like sales document flow, you're like, yep, I'm out. Because we were just not willing to deal with this. And we had only estimated 4 to 8 hours or something like that for this whole PTE. And so like, yep, not going to do it. And so, yeah, if Eric has done it for bank deposits, maybe that's the way we go. I will offer that to the partner and see what they want to do. And when I walk in my garage these days, this is what I see. These are surfboards. Yes. So while trying to rummage through the junk to get stuff out of my toolbox, get tools out of the garage, I have to move full-size surfboards because my wife is surfing now. So, yes, welcome to my life. And upcoming events, próximos eventos. Summit NA is in October and Directions EMEA is in November in Poland. So if you're wanting some travel, check those out. And I was on a call yesterday, day before, I don't even remember. And the issue was BC environment is not upgrading. We're getting an error. And folks, this is where danger lies. Your environment sandbox cannot be updated to version 26.3 because one or more of the installed extensions is not compatible. Who could have ever seen this coming, folks? Extension ID, extension name, extension publisher, redacted for their own security. Version 21.0.45. Business Central 21 was released in October of 2022. And this extension shows version 21.0.45, which I will at least potentially give the partner who created this some credit, because it kind of looks like they're using automated version numbering, which is a good sign, which hopefully they do have work pipelines. Excuse me. But if you look at this message, page extensions, item card, page extension .al, error, AL0155, field with name quantity in transit is already defined in the page item card by Microsoft in 26.3. If you know what this means, you know what the problem is. And it means this customer is stuck. And you might say, well, you just look at the extension and you make a fix. Except that, guess what? Allow source code download is turned off. It is set to no. So we cannot see the source code. We cannot accidentally, or we cannot access the code or view what it did. And Eric says classic. Someone added a field. Later, Microsoft adds the same field. Exactamente. Always add your prefix to the page control to avoid this. Yes, this is noob AL development. I learned this years ago. I'm sure my developer and I made this mistake years ago with a field, object, whatever. So yes, always, always, always add your prefix, your suffix, your affix, whatever you want to call it, and add it to your object, and you can change the caption to whatever you want. But do not create a field called quantity in transit, because there is the potential one day Microsoft is going to add that to Business Central. And you might say, come on, that's never going to happen. Exhibit A, folks, it happened. They created this in Business Central version 21, and lo and behold, in Business Central 26.0, Microsoft adds a field called quantity in transit. How do I know that? Thank you, Stefan Marone, because he creates the awesome GitHub repository called BC Code History. And I can go back and see when this field was added. It was added in version 26.0.30643. And there you have it. Now, this customer's in a bit of a pickle because the partner that developed this extension did not allow source code download. I would bet $1,000 this customer does not have the original source code to this PTE. I mean, it was developed with version 25 and never updated. And they do not like their original partner. All sorts of complaints. Now they're with a new partner, and that new partner is calling us for help. So whatever you take of that, clearly their new partner is not equipped to even understand what this message means, let alone handle the upgrade failure. I do not understand how this is working, but we're trying to help, and all I can tell you is you got two options. Crawl back to that original partner and ask very nicely if you can get the source code, or you gotta uninstall this extension and upgrade without it. And I have no idea how many other features are in this extension. So Eric is warning that Microsoft is adding tons of hidden fields right now to Business Central to allow the AIs to better navigate the application. So be on the lookout. It sounds like this may be a more common occurrence. So yeah, there you go. And hats off to Stefan for doing this. It is awesome. Franklin and I have spent days playing with the BC Code history to find the code, to look at the that document attachment list code and figure out what's going on there. I used it to find quantity in transit. So yes, very awesome resource. Thursday, Jueves, what do we got going on here? So yesterday I played with the Teams NDI video output. If you're not familiar with NDI, think of it as a way for an application to output a nice, clean network video feed for live streaming software, such as what I use, vMix, to capture that feed and rebroadcast it. So I previously used Skype, which was phenomenal. Skype, just your basic Skype, had an NDI output. Beautiful, super clean, super high quality, low latency, no hassle. Like, it just worked. It was flawless. What does Microsoft do? It kills Skype completely. You can't even use it. And they've pushed you to Teams. It is garbage. And unfortunately, the Teams NDI output is a disaster. It's a disaster to set up because they have all this like permissions. You got to enable it at the organization level. It's not available for Teams Personal, apparently. You have to do it at the organization level, then every user has to enable it. and the output just doesn't work. It's just horrible. Like it's got like a 10-second startup lag. And then once the feed gets going, it's hit and miss and it's just very inefficient. So if anyone knows of a better way to do an NDI, get NDI output from a live video call, no, Zoom does not have it. No, OBS is not a realistic solution. I know vMix Call is an option. I've used it previously. The latency was horrible. So I can pay $800, I believe, for a commercial version. Um, but I'm hoping to avoid that. So open to suggestions on a clean NDI output other than Teams. I've looked, I don't know the answer. I am going to ping a couple of people I know who do live stream to see what they use. Maybe I'm using vMix Call wrong. Anyway, so yeah, NDI production tools need to be installed and activated for every Teams client that joins the meeting, which I could potentially pull off, but just it was not pretty when pulling a vMix. Anyway, that's what I did yesterday. And yesterday we also onboarded a customer to BC Telemetry. Um, I know. This should be a routine thing for every BC customer, but it is not. Some organizations I have spoken to are very good about this. I've spoken to at least 2 partners. They do a really good job purportedly to onboard their customers. The telemetry is just standard for them. And they have over 100 customers on their telemetry. But it has been like pulling teeth, I'm telling you, pulling teeth to get our customers onto telemetry. So I have created the ERP support team onboarding form. And so basic company information, notes on apps and extensions like MEM, environment notes, things like that, support contacts. And so got someone onboarded and I set up the table transformation or whatever it's called within our telemetry or logging workspace in Azure. Horrible naming convention in Azure, but this is what it looks like where you can filter your event IDs. I don't know why the spaces are there. I'll have to check that out. That's interesting. So yeah, you filter out event IDs like RT003, 4, 35, 36, 38, etc. in order to cut down on the noise. So that is active and we're looking to troubleshoot login performance issues. The customer said logins to BC were taking a long time and said they're having some horrible performance on reports internal to BC. Just say it's like unacceptable performance. So looking into what's going on there, see if we can pinpoint it and do a support ticket. And DynamicsCon regionals, regional meetups. There was just one in Seattle, Washington. And, oh, no. I'm sorry, that's a different regional meetup. Scratch that. Pretend I never said that. DynamicsCon regionals in Denver in August, Dublin, Ohio in August, and Dallas in September. And I have not checked those dates lately. Double check the dates and locations. Eric says he usually does AL star to make sure all log message events are captured. Interesting. I'll have to ping you to see what you mean by that. I am currently just filtering out selective ones to ensure those are not captured, which I'm fine with for the moment. And if we see noise, we'll filter out the ones that are noisy. But at the moment, we don't know what we're looking for. So I'm only just limiting the ones. Thank you, Scott Bolson, for the recommendations on those. I'm just filtering out the obvious ones that we don't need. Friday, Viernes. I am going to try to read the documentation for the SonicWall Cloud Secure Edge, which is an acquisition by SonicWall of Banyan App. Let's see, Eric says when you do log message in AL, they're all prefixed as AL. Got it, yes, and you have the AL event number. So I'm filtering out a couple of those. Let me see, what were those? I am filtering out AL0000 LA2 and CTE. Yes. And so by default, all of the events are getting pushed into telemetry. And these are the ones I'm filtering out because those are noisy, um, low value for us. And so I'm going to be trying to work on Cloud Secure Edge. And this is what's in their documentation. And if anyone can explain what this means to me, good luck. This was presented to me during the sales presentation. It is a horribly meaningless diagram. Yeah. Anyway. And this is another one. Tell me what this means. Really. Like, yes. Horrible. So that's what I'll be doing today and this weekend. And Summit NA Roadshows, that is what was just recently in Seattle this week. So there were apparently 40 or 60 or something like that people in the BC crowd there. So a good crowd. And coming up in August is Madison, Wisconsin, and Nashville, Tennessee. Double check those dates. And Tanya and Alyssa were there. And I see some other familiar faces. So that was the road show in Seattle. And then Shannon Mullins was also there. So I see familiar faces there. So it looks like a good crowd. And I guess there was a Biz App Summit as well, which, sorry, I know nothing about it. I don't have time for those things. I have palm trees to deal with, or excuse me, coconut trees. Business Central Excellence Update. This is out of Berlin, El Salvador. And Jocelyn continues to dig into Power BI. She's doing some advanced financial reports in Power BI. She worked on a check layout with the whole $ debacle, and she did some internal training with Fatima to do more BC training to bring Fatima up to speed. And David is dealing with a data migration for a customer and data cleanup and config packages, and he's getting several report layouts in RDLC and Word. Oops, sorry, premature there. Continia document capture is Ronald's new gig, and he is learning about Macorma Payment Hub and will be learning that product. And Franklin encountered the PTE pain of a doc attach list. It's just one item on a page. How hard can it be, right? Just need to add document attachments to bank deposits. Can't be that hard, right? And in Berlin, the Canton FC El Coyolar had their soccer game last weekend with their new uniforms. So ERP Center of Excellence is representing on the soccer field. And if you have never seen a local Salvadoran soccer game, watch out, folks. It is crazy. They do not joke around, and you want to be very careful. Otherwise, you're going to take a soccer ball to the face, or you're literally going to be run into by someone on the edge of the field, and they will just take you out. Like, not even joking. You need to be actively aware and avoid danger to save your life. It is pretty crazy. And very, 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 very awesome news. The Office of Internal Works or Civil Works, I forgot the name. Oh, Office of Ministry of Public Works. Thank you. Romeo Herrera announced that they have given the order to begin paving the road that runs from the Litoral Highway north to Usulatan, San Agustin, and Berlin. This is a huge deal. There is a road that heads north to Berlin, but it is essentially unpaved, and even a pretty well-equipped off-road vehicle would have a very hard time getting there. If you go to Berlin using Google Maps, you are in for a bad day because Google Maps will recommend that road and you will not make it. Instead, you have to spend another hour or so going north up through Zacatecoluca and then come down to Berlin through Mercedes Umaya. But they're working on paving that road, and hopefully in roughly 6 months, less than a year, we will cut the time from the airport to Berlin by 40 minutes or more. Very good news. So that's what it looks like. The dark blue is the route you have to come across through San Vicente and come from the north. You could go around the south through Santiago de Maria, but I typically take the north route. And that lighter blue line is straight out and then north to Berlin. That will be quite a time saver for us. So I look forward to that. And on the palm tree front, I have mentioned previously that a palm tree in your yard in Berlin, or El Salvador for that matter, is a literal health hazard. Those coconuts will cause serious damage to you or your car. So once again, we called the tree trimmers out and I said, be aggressive, get rid of any palms, any baby palms, all the fronds. And they did a massive cleanup. And these palm fronds, they're like 10 feet long. They are crazy. They're enormous. And if a palm frond falls on you, that will take you out as well. I mean, they're just gigantic. Not your typical LA palm frond. These things are not messing around. So they filled the entire driveway, and thankfully they took it away. So these are our trimmed palm trees. They got the kind of funky, spiky look. Not quite sure why they do that yet, but yes, looking nice and clean and less dangerous. So we are now compliant with OSHA safety regulations in our office. And Berlin English Academy continues to study. So at least twice a week, the students get together and they do advanced English training, and they are doing kind of job interview prep for the process of interviewing for a seasonal call center job. And these are not easy to get, or call center jobs are difficult to get for Berliners because they would like to work remote. And you normally have to spend at least 3 months in San Salvador doing training. And then you potentially get a job, and then you need to often work in San Salvador. There are a few remote jobs, but they are not very common. So this is a plan to have the Berliners learn enough English and enough skills to make them do well in the seasonal call center opportunity. And that is where they interview for, it's like November through January for, say, game companies or product or service companies that have a lot of rush during Christmas and New Year's. So there's an opportunity to work remotely without having to go in San Salvador for 3 months for training. So that's what they're working on. It's an awesome plan hatched by Ronald. So he is organizing that and conducting the Berlin English Academy there. And there we have Danny. Hi, Danny. Look at that. So Daniela is all smiles, and they are learning some call center lingo and how to kind of do that type of job. So it's an awesome program that we are sponsoring out of our Berlin office. And that is it. Happy Friday. I need to jump on a call, I think, with the team. And if you are not familiar with this, this is called, I believe it is called an annone. It is a fruit that I call the wild dragon egg fruit. It is crazy looking. It is kind of looks like a green dragon egg on the outside, and it is either anywhere from super crazy bright pink to orange to white, the fruit in the center. I have not had it. I've been told it is delicious, but due to its exotic nature, like many fruits, animals, things like that throughout the world, what once was a very modest pedestrian fruit in El Salvador or Central America used to go for less than $1. They are charging tourists over $20 for one of these things simply because foreign tourists will pay for them. So I've yet to try it. I will hopefully try it next time. So with that, folks, que tengas un buen fin de semana. Have a good weekend and go learn something, learn some Business Central, go cause some trouble. And make your source code downloadable for your poor customer. Okay, adios. Have a good one.